where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
Good evening, Blackbirds. Today's report. This is first off, this is Sleepy, your bookman for this report, or the host for today. In terms of the topic of conversation, we're going to be talking about nuclear bombs and nuclear weapons. This is unfortunately becoming something that is becoming more prevalent given today's political climate. When it comes down to a few things to note, about nuclear explosions in general, the blast impact and the shock. There is a shock wave and overpressure that I'd really like to start with. The idea of windows and being next to a window, being near windows. This could easily lead to injuries. Outside of the blast radius, a lot of windows are going to pop or break in general. And in terms of there is a whole radius that we need to worry about that can really extend a few miles out from the actual blast zone itself. There does seem to be thermal radiation in terms of intense heat from the explosion that can cause burning and burns. Firestorms are another thing to worry about. With these events, a lot of things are going to catch fire. When it comes to an event, I really want to stress this idea of fallout. Fallout, when it comes down to initial fallout, I really want you guys to be aware of the idea of if you catch any of the fallout, you have to clean your clothes. You have to clean your clothes, brush yourself off in a certain way, brush yourself off as much as possible. The idea of nuclear fallout is you may not know it, but you may be carrying particles that cause damage later on, and a lot of it, you don't want to really carry around these particles inside with you in any shelter with you. There is going to be radioactive fallout in terms of when carrying radioactive particles to different sites. And we'll circle back a little bit. But in terms of long-term consequences, the environment is going to be contaminated. Soil and water are going to be contaminated. And when it comes down to drinking water, period, the idea, if that water is to be considered non-potable, if you guys, if there is a source of water that is outside and it catches nuclear fallout in any way. Ecological impact. Radiation does affect animals. In terms of it's really expected closer to the bone marrow. If you have to, eat anything, the idea is to stay away from the bone. The bone is radioactive. The further away from bone, the better, apparently. And the idea is that's where a lot of the meat or the substance will hold radiation and poison the body through the bone or through the bone structure. Health effects. When it comes down to radio sickness, nausea and vomiting and diarrhea and bleeding are going to be several cases. A lot more people die due to the fallout. Like, this isn't this idea of the nuclear event itself kills a certain amount of people, and the fallout almost kills 2 times as many people. Or I mean, the time after, it kills about 2 times as many people. There is cancer and genetic mutations if you do survive. On, and the idea is, this is going to be a lasting impact due to cancer and genetic mutations that you may not see, and the idea of psychological impact, trauma, PTSD. Of course, you guys get, this is going to be really, without saying, but you guys are going to be affected to a psychological level, and have you guys are going to be you guys, if you guys witness and have and you guys are unfortunate enough to witness a nuclear event, you're going to experience a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. And the idea is communities are really going to have to deal with that, in terms of that becomes more real after surviving a nuclear fallout and being able to survive a nuclear fallout. When it comes down to historical cases, we got the Hiroshima and Nagasaki event, and there was a guy who actually survived both. I think he died of cancer later on, but like, he survived both effects and seen. I think he he worked in like one city, Nagasaki or Hiroshima, or one of the other. But he worked in one of the cities and lived in another, and one of the nuclear events left him having to as a survivor, go home. And this guy experienced another nuclear event at home. And another thing, when it comes down to it, if there's a nuclear strike, this thing isn't gonna be a one time. It's gonna be multiple. It's gonna be a strategy. It's gonna be in the theme work of a strategy. These aren't gonna be, nuclear bombs aren't gonna just drop and it's over. The idea is, what can we expect in terms of later on, if you're in terms of people next to places that may be strategically more, have more incentive. You guys have to think about what comes after that event in general. This is, damn it, I'll lose my place. When it comes down to really surviving a nuclear bomb in general, I think a lot of us do think of this as a single event, but it is better to think of, or it is more powerful to think of this as a possibly the beginning in a series of events. In terms of defense, how you respond, you need to think about that. And one thing I really, really don't like is that, when searching for what to do, it became a element of watch. Sorry, this guy was going the wrong ways. But it became an element of watch what you when it comes down to this event and thinking of this event. A lot of nonprofit organizations, they'll say things like, "Oh, follow government sources afterwards," and or follow sources of government. When you're in a nuclear fallout, and you have to understand that these aren't going to be as reliable, or I don't expect these, and I want you to not expect these guys to be as reliable in terms of actually figuring out, what comes next thereafter. You need to stay inside and really seek shelter immediately. Of course, the idea is, I'll link a podcast below where a guy actually goes in, or where I believe that the holistic prepper, he goes in on really the construction, the most ideal construction. But in terms of for this report, you guys should look for really the center of buildings and basements in general. You don't want to be near the you want to be as deep in the building as possible for these guys. But that was a kind of an offshoot. When it comes down to events, Chernobyl as well. Other than Hiroshima and Nagasaki and what happened, and and really what's going on in these places, Chernobyl, in terms of that there was a power plant that exploded, for those who don't know, and there was widespread radio contamination there. The exclusion zone, in terms of what happened in surrounding areas, it's uninhabited. It was uninhabited. It was uninhabited for a while, with long-term health effects observed in exposed populations. Other notable incidents, they know that this absolutely destroys the communities nearby and the environment and the surrounding environment. Incidents like there's apparently incidents where the three-party island partial meltdown highlight risk of nuclear power. In terms of the agencies involved, FEMA, local and state agencies, the most important thing is really staying in place, finding shelter, and once you find any type of shelter, staying there for at least 24 hours, allowing that drop-off to occur. If you guys aren't aware, that graph that kind of peaks, the idea is on that downturn, like 24 hours is kind of it's a safe estimate in an emergency. Of course, you want to stay longer though. You want to stay longer, as long as possible, with whatever food resources that you guys have. That's going to become more important. That's going to become if it's impossible for you to stay in longer than 24 hours. 24 hours is really known as kind of the where the nuclear fallout just starts to drop. And I mean, it's really dropped off significantly. There's they're talking a lot of this is going into there's going to be government aid, nonprofit. Like, after a nuclear event, I want you guys to realize that government agencies and nonprofits, like nonprofit organizations, like, don't rely on them. Obviously, they're gonna be in it for or any agency that's trying to help you is more so going to have to control you in a certain amount of a certain way, and a lot of us aren't gonna like that, especially if we're prepared enough to survive itself, to survive. And we're listening to this now. Anybody listening to this report, that's probably a good sign for your survival capabilities. When it comes down to this, if you have to find shelter outside, one thing that's really, really huge and going to be really huge for you is the immediate, like, this idea of, like, outdoor shelter. You guys should understand this, like, really trying to, if it comes down to it, try to find something that, that is a ditch. But I'm like thinking of some kind of wacky Looney Tune cartoon where they, like, your back's burnt and you're like you're face down in a ditch and your back is burnt because it was exposed. Like, that, like, you guys need to understand, anybody that's outside, I don't expect people outside to, like, survive. And the idea is the blast itself kills people, but a lot of like that fall off after, in terms of when we're talking about, like, damn near 2 times as many people dying. And, like, we have to be a lot of us are going to want to give people food. And I think the holistic, like, one of the holistic prepper, he, like, it really comes down to, is this person worth the food that we're going to give them, because they're going to definitely die. And a lot of these people, they just live in complete agony until the point comes where it is time for them to die. And I mean, it sounds like it really does sound like it's a horrible position to be in. But the idea is, I mean, no, like, in terms of surviving after, this report isn't about rebuilding and finding a way out, but in terms of this idea of inside and staying inside at least 24 hours. Like, don't the fall off will dissipate within those 24 hours. Within those 24 hours to some level that's much more comfortable than being outside during those 24 hours. The idea is, like, I think surviving this event, a lot of when it came down to the Texas, what happened in Texas, I think it was during, literally during the power outages in Texas, what surprised a lot of people was, like, the idea of being able to charge a phone and how powerful that was for that person. And solar chargers are pretty cheap. You can find them on Amazon. Just keeping those stocked and ready is nice. And that's one thing that you guys should definitely be aware of, in terms of the idea of the power in keeping a phone, or a phone charged, in terms of what could happen. Very much something I recommend on that front. Look for public shelters in your community. This can be churches. This can be a lot of things. one thing I read, at least we have like under like the Capitol building, there's like a fallout shelter or something like that, and the idea is like, so it's it's really this element of being underground and being safe. This is well thought about to the point of having like every capital has some kind of something to keep our politicians safe. Just in case, like it's just like I don't mean to laugh, but the idea of like the worst people surviving an apocalypse and being made safe is, you got to see the humor in that at least. Um, when it comes down to really like public shelters, of course, like I said, inside, underground, it's one. Um, Identify those, wherever you're at, like if it's, if it's at work, if it's at school, if it's at some place you frequent on a regular, be able to identify those around you. That's very, very good. Um, in terms of this idea of shelter, it seems like there's a decrease or increase in the efficiency of a shelter in terms of fallout and what happens. And basements are going to be good, or basements are okay, but you guys should understand that element of what what happens in that case, or what's happening in the air in terms of nuclear fallout and surviving nuclear fallout. They're going to be putting out emergency alerts. FEMA's going to be like all over the case in terms of they're going to have bases. Like I said, some of them may not be so that, like in terms of these actual, like the idea of a base, it may not be comfortable for a lot of people. In terms of decontamination, anything that's exposed, if you have fluffy hair, if you have like a jacket, anything like that, like if you feel like that can hold if it can hold like dust particles, the idea is it can also hold nuclear fallout. Of course, your skin, brush your skin off, wash your skin if possible with soap, and like in terms of actually preparedness, there is, we have this idea of also, they decided what we really, 1 second, this idea of surviving these events, what they are surviving is, like I said, solar powered, solar powered battery, keep solar powered something would probably be really good in terms of just keep around. Solar powered something to charge your phone with solar power, something that helps. I think they sell some kits online at I think Amazon. In terms of actual like shelter, what they can do, you want to keep air from cycling like within, like if you're indoors and you're sheltering in place, the idea is you want to make sure you keep or basically prevent outside air from getting in, and a lot of AC units that are dedicated to bringing outside air inside. You may need to find a way to cover your vents and your supplies in various ways. So, always think about your water, of course. It's good having water on hand. Water purification as well. It's good having some tablets. When it comes down to the idea of really what happens in a lot of these cases is it's going to be a high, like, a lot of cases where people are burnt, and you got to expect that. Let me see. There's a fallout meter, or Kearney fallout meter, and the idea is it monitors radiation levels. You can, if you can get your hands on one of those, that'd be great. And really protecting yourself against a lot of course, fallout. But when it comes down to these shelters, there's different types. Well, we didn't go over all the shelters, but like, we need to understand. A lot of people are like, they're gonna it's gonna be dark for a lot of people. And I don't know. In terms of, I hope this is never useful for you. In any case, I really, really do. If anything, like and subscribe, and I will be with you hopefully in future videos. Or please look out for. See you in the next video. Thank you.